leadership panel here today to talk to us about how to create and lead with technology. So all of the people that are here have been presenting or have been a part of our discussion with our leadership all day today. So you've listened to them today. Now it's an opportunity for a discussion at our tables and also for a discussion with you with our panel. Before I get started, I would like to thank High Point Networks, who is here today, who provided our lunch for us. So I'm going to bring them up and give them a couple of minutes. We all know that we can't do any of the global teaching and learning that we're talking about without access to the internet and Wi-Fi. Please note that they did not work on our Wi-Fi. So I will just say that right now. But we know that we can't connect our students and talk about digital age teaching and learning without reliable internet and Wi-Fi access. So I'm going to turn it over to them and thank them for our wonderful lunch today.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you for pointing that out. I didn't know how I was going to say that gracefully. So I'll let you do it. My name is Tom McDougall, and I'm the president of a company called High Point Networks. We're a company who started in North Dakota. You might say, well, what are you doing here? Who's from North Dakota? We have some. All right, great. So if you're ever in Fargo, that brand new building that's right beside Titan Machinery, that's ours. So very cool. And a couple of years ago, we started to expand into the Denver area. We have offices kind of all over the place, but we started to expand into Denver. And one of the major reasons we did that actually surrounds education. And what you were just talking about with the wireless network is really one of the major things that we really see happening and growing and becoming an issue in schools, and not just schools, but it seems particularly prevalent in schools where people bring a device in and now they can't get on, or they get on and they can't get the access they expect. And I think we all kind of wonder, why is that happening? And so what we've really specialized in is systems that allow the network to know who you are and what you are, so that the network can make a decision. Do I give this person access, and how much access do I give them? So if you're in a third grade class and it's 8:30 in the morning, and everybody has their Chromebook, and you're going to teach from Google, one of the YouTube channels or something like that, the worst thing that can happen is everybody fires up the machine and nobody can get on the network. If you could solve that, that would be a very, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but that would be greatly increase your productivity, correct? And that's really what we do. That's where we focus. It doesn't so matter the brand of it or the name that's on it. It's a matter of controlling who it is, what it is, and how are we going to allow them to communicate. So we do that from the wireless component. We also do that at a wired level. And we do that at a security level, at the firewall level, because at the firewall level, you have parents trying to get into the parent portal at the same time the kids are trying to use the network. Well, how do you manage that? So you have to have good control on that. So that's all I'm going to say. We'd love to talk to you. Elmar Cannon is our account manager, and he lives in Loveland, so northern Denver area. And David Sachs is a business partner of ours with Extreme Networks, and we really appreciate their help in helping us provide you lunch. And whoever's baking that bread right now, I'd like to just either have them bring it here or stop, because it's making me hungry again. So anyway, thank you very much, Kelly.
We know that we cannot pull off a conference without our sponsors, so we really appreciate their willingness to partner with us. So we have a unique opportunity to visit with some innovative leaders. You've listened to them today, so I'm really excited that they're here to also talk about creating leaders and capacity with our own students. So we're going to first of all go on to our next sponsor. After this, when we're done, we have a leadership cocktail event. And we will have drinks and a few cocktails and some beverages for you to choose from, as well as some food for you to choose from. And we need to thank Janus Foundation. We're going to give them a couple minutes at the end to be able to talk to us, but this panel is provided from them. So again, we can't do it without our sponsors. So I'm just going to let everybody introduce themselves very briefly. You've met most of them, but if you didn't get a chance to attend their session, you may not know who they are. So I'm going to go ahead, even though we're not in order, if you want to go ahead and start, Tracy, and then we can go on.
Hey y'all, I'm Tracy Stale and I'm the principal at Birch Elementary in Broomfield, and we are part of the Boulder Valley School District.
I'm Bill. I'm here just to watch the much to do with this. I spoke this morning.
My name is Donald Beck, and I work for local public schools and the district instructional technologist, so I work with teachers and students.
My name is Michael Robb. I'm still at the Saturday School in Colorado Springs.
I am Kirk Anderson. I'm the Director of Educational Technology for Denver Schools.
Tyler Avalon, former principal of Denver Christian Schools, now Director of Student Life.
So I'd like to start by understanding that this is a collaboration and a discussion with you. So our very first question is, what are your biggest dreams for effectively incorporating technology? And I want to let you talk together amongst your table. And then also, what is your greatest fear? Let's first start there, and then we're also going to talk with our panel about that. So first, visit with somebody next to you. Hopefully you'll meet somebody new. And what are your biggest fears? And then what is your greatest dream? Okay, we have about 1 more minute to share, please.
Annalise, is it simple?
Yeah, that's okay. I gave it a 19.
Production?
Don't. It's my 19.
Yep. How long is this?
Okay, thank you. If you want to add your biggest dreams and your greatest fears into our back channel, that would be wonderful. I heard wonderful conversations in our table about your greatest fears and dreams. Is there anyone who would like to share with us? Who would like to share your table discussion? Either one.
Two things on fears. One, like Dr. Zhao talked about this morning, is the human element of teaching going away. I picture that kids will be in a bubble like Superman is as he's going and learning languages, and a computer is going to be teaching him or her. And then the second part would be the article that just came out about handwriting. As you know, we do technology and everyone's typing, but if you just read the, what was that from the New York Times? Was that an article about handwriting going away and the intelligence of kids being affected by technology? So those are two greatest fears. Biggest dream would be to have, we talk about differentiation, but really if we could start tracking kids from 6th grade to 12th grade, technology-wise, with the teacher and the kid, knowing exactly, building on what they want to do. So if the kid wants to be an engineer, every class that kid was taken has some type of focus and strand throughout their high school career. We do have the 3 pathways that most districts are supposed to have implemented this year for your diplomas, and that would tie nicely into it.
So more of a personalized learning approach, by being able to allow technology to do that for us. Anybody else want to share what was happening at their table? Okay, I'd like to hear from our panel. What is your greatest fear or biggest dream?
So I'm Tracy, and I'll start with my biggest fear. Relationships are super important to me and to our staff. And a couple of years ago, when we got a grant and added iPads, and all teachers had an iPad, and we were going all paperless, and so it was just streamlining all kinds of work, and so we went down to 1 faculty meeting a month, and our culture just tanked. And I think it tanked because we weren't spending enough time actually looking at each other and spending time with one another. So a fear that I have is that I might text you in this room instead of actually having a conversation with you. That's a fear.
Well, as I said, I'm here watching. I have no dream or no fear. I'm going to comment on your dreams after this.
So I fear, I think I have is that technology may increase the size we have. So that encouragement. And then I kind of tie together.
And our hope is that technology will help to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots and gives all students equal access to learning.
So taking you back to the Wild West, I want you to think about having a toothache. When you think about you were probably hoping for better technology because they would take a candle, a rock, give you some whiskey, fix it. So technology, the hope for me, just like the dentist profession, I hope that students get better experiences, can shine in brighter ways, maybe have a global knowledge that they didn't have when I was young. We might see something on CNN about hurricane hitting Putin, but what if our kids had access to making friends and eating something we're doing in school? Count on that. If I I love to see a kindergarten village where we collect bedtime stories from Japan, in South Africa, in France, and compare what are grown-ups telling kids in all these different countries. I think it would be just fun to see that. That's something like that.
I'm a huge fan of community, and I would hope that technology would help to enhance that. So I think if I was a student, I'm not sure to what level or to what amount my mom and dad knew what was going on in my school as I was there. Whereas now I have all these tools and these ideas that can be easily shared, and then therefore bringing my community, my stakeholders around a common cause. They truly understand or are better able to understand the story of my school.
I was actually not joking. I actually have the same kind of concerns and dreams and all those things. But the biggest thing I think for us as educators is that I really don't like the word incorporating, because you can see technology actually changes us. Whether we like it or not, we're changed. So like Winston Churchill said, we shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. That's however you construct this whole thing, the technology. But also we shouldn't forget that we actually, our kids and ourselves, are active agents in shaping the technology itself as well. So that's one of the first thing. Second, I think we haven't done much in terms of fear or dream is to really realign our workforce. If you look at our schools, you guys, you take people like watch movies, the Matrix and Agent Smith said, never seen a man to do a machine's job. So your fear of people in technology predominantly does knowledge, information, cognitive jobs. They never do a good job in social, emotional. So we should think about outsourcing things we don't want to do, like doing the knowledge transmission. We think that get machines to do that. We just hang out to do all human things. I actually think technology can free us to do more social emotional things we don't have to teach. So that's why you guys cannot do this here. I'm advising universities that how do you survive the second machine age? You build more bars, more socialized, more clubs. I'm serious. I'm not joking about it. Because that's something technology never cultivates. Third is actually my biggest fear. Really. Third one is this. However, technology has another potential. It enlarges the social circle. Then you only get to socialize with people you like. Look at your Facebook, look at your Twitter, look at your friends. This is very dangerous. So we can polarize ourselves without knowing that. So we don't interact with people we don't like anymore. When Google recommends stories you like, everything is something you like. You feel so good, everyone loves it. I get 500 likes, but you never get the dislikes. Do you guys notice Twitter and Facebook have no dislikes? I hate you people. You never get this. I tweet some, favorites. Well, how about those have favorites, absolutely, they're favorite to hate, it could be something different. So I think that's something we should caution ourselves as groups. The echo chamber can grow bigger and bigger. When we get into a society, that's actually worse. When we talk about the gap, the poor versus the rich, what my biggest concern is talk about like in districts, school districts, good schools, you're actually very much homogenous. You're discriminating against. You have intellectual diversity. Now many schools, especially Christian schools, independent schools, not yours, but now independent schools, the selective admission, in essence, trying to homogenize. That's selecting people think alike. They're all good at the SATs. So the social diversity is key, but I think we're not embracing that. So, number I would want.
Fantastic. All right, so our next process is just basically, I'd love to hear a story from our panel, and then also from you guys to share amongst your tables. What is a way that you are leading away by either using technology for adults or for students? So I want you to either focus on a student example or an adult example, because we have both that we're working with all the time in our communities. So kind of give us an idea of how you're using technology with students or adults? Are you starting first, Tyler?
Yes, I'm starting first. I was slow down, yeah. So, I've got sort of a twist to the story. It's an interesting story, and I was sharing this with a couple of other people this morning. There is a veteran teacher that I work with that tech, and whatever you want to define tech is not her favorite thing in the whole wide world to do. And so over the last couple of years, she and I have had pretty amazing conversations because she comes at it from a completely different perspective than I do. And the one thing, though, that is common between the two of us is that we value its place in education. But what she does do is she provides sort of that, whoa, slow down, Tyler moment for me. Because I tend to just, get a little lead-footed and plow through and then look at the wake behind me afterwards, and that can be problematic. And so what we have done is we have a great understanding in that technology is important in the education of our students. So what she focuses on is not necessarily that she learns the tech, but that she facilitates the student's ability to integrate technology into the classroom. So she has come to the point where she does not allow her fear, it's probably not the right word, but allow her discomfort to interfere with the students interfering with it. And her students produce amazing projects that have a global audience because she recognizes that value. And so that has been just an awesome experience to be a part of and see her really lay the groundwork for that sort of transformation in her classroom.
So I'll put a slightly different twist on the question also. So I'm in Denver Public Schools, which is a large bureaucratic organization. And we spend a lot of time talking about really abstract ideas, like personalized learning and blended learning, all these ideas that really don't have necessarily a solid image in people's heads about what it necessarily means. And so something that I worked this year with our CIO was creating a district vision for what technology looks like in Denver Public Schools in the coming years. We worked with Jim Langle, who does Education 3.0, and with the Council of Great City Schools. What we did that I'm really, really proud of is we pulled together a group of principals, teachers, central office folks, and students. And we got them all into a room for an entire day together to create visions of what a day in their life using technology for learning could look like, should look like. We had a collection of drawing pictures and creating scenarios of what how technology should fit into their learning. At the end of that day, we left with 24 different drawings of this, and then we pulled that out into some big ideas about what that can mean for technology learning. And we had that same group of people, including the students, everyone vote on what they thought was important, what came out of that day that was most important to them. We took all that and we created a script. We actually created a script of what a video would look like, what a student's day would look like 3 years out. And we then we took that script and we sent it out to that same group of people again, and we had them give us feedback on what was in that script that was good and what was missing still. Eventually, we produced a video, which we honestly just finished last week, that finally gives some coherent view of what the group of us all agreed on as far as what technology could look like, should look like in the day in the life of a student learning. I'll tell you, honestly, one of the things I'm most proud of that is that there's a short segment in that video where we just show the kids playing soccer. And the reason we did that is because when we were listening to the student voice about all of this, one thing we heard really loud and clear from students was that when we talk about anytime, anywhere learning, it sure sounds like we're just talking about them doing stuff 24 hours a day. And that they wanted to still the kids and play. And so we included that in our vision for what technology and education looks like, is that there is a time for kids to turn off from that also. The thing I'm really proud about, my story is that we took a whole lot of voices and brought them all together and created a vision that people can sort of look at and talk about what's good about it, what's bad about it, but at least it's a vision.
So in Littleton, we pride ourselves, and many of you have similar things, is that we have something called Inspired Writing. We started this in 2008, and the technology department really wanted to make sure that when we started our professional development, it was really focused on instruction and content. So we chose writing as our one area. And so when we did our professional development, everything was around process writing. And we were talking about pre-writing, and revising, and drafting, and editing, and publishing, and how technology really leverages this piece. So that when our teachers were getting their computers, at 1-to-1, third grade and up, that they started to have skill sets of what do I do when I have a computer in front of me and I'm writing? How do I pre-write? I'm a great graphic organizer. How do I communicate with them and do all these good strategies that I did before? And then what other affordances does technology now leverage that I couldn't do before I had it? How can we now communicate with authors? How can we have something more than just a Socratic seminar, fishbowl, where everyone's voice is being used all the time and everyone can have that audience. So we really made sure that our initial professional development was very focused in one area of writing. And then that got such great leverage that teachers in science and social studies and math were saying, wait a minute, what about people who are not in language arts? Can we also get something like that? And so that started to spread out to something that we call Inspired Learning, which really then focuses on content areas outside of writing, but always embedded in instructional strategies and pedagogy. And so if you were in our session earlier, we really focused on the TPAC model, which stands for Technology, Pedagogy, and Content Knowledge, and also the SAMR model, which many of you are familiar with. And so these really help focus, give us a vision and really image so that our principals see that when they're walking in classrooms, what would those look like when you're a teacher and you're planning a lesson, what does that look like, what do I consider when planning, or when we're even doing instructional resources, what things do I need to make sure when we're choosing instructional resources to keep in mind. So that's really exciting.
Well, I have been, when I was hired at Michigan State University about 20 years ago, my job was trying to make sure that teachers, educators, professors to adopt technology, and they quickly give up. They have to retire, they have to be shot. Basically, nothing happened. And so after that, actually I've learned, basically, my approach has been creating alternatives. That is, I invite you to innovation, not impose upon you my view of change. So all these years I've been creating alternatives. One of my recent things I've been doing for over 4 years now is creating a global collaborative construction platform that's practically free. Because I really want to exist in schools globally to create content for each other, have students creating content for each other. They can be entrepreneurs, they can market to each other. If you want to create bedtime stories, you could. I want students to be teaching their own language and culture to each other. We can have students from Global Khan Academy, that's better than Southbound. You can have those things. So if you want to play with them, we have now about tens of thousands of students from all over the world doing this thing. And we just started this Global Language and Culture Institute. Kids from 5 countries are teaching each other their own language and culture. I want you to be able to make things. That's one goal, to learn by making. But I don't want this, everybody should do it. So if you are interested in it, you can use it, you can drive this. And I also want the schools to be able to swap courses. For example, Littleton, we have a great Spanish course, but we don't have enough students. and students from Cherry Creek can take that, students from VPS can take that, from another state. It's a global collaboration platform. If you're interested, go take a look. It's it's called the system is called OBA, OBA. Nothing to do with Obama. Okay, that's simply is OBA is 3 letters that can be easily pronounced with any accent. It will still sounds like OBA. That's how I was looking for globally pronounceable. But they have 2 versions. One is called OBA Verse. That's the free version. Higher ed OBA Verse, like universe. OBA VERSE.net. You can try it. OBAverse.net. The other version, which is closed for K-12 because we have to comply with OBA and FERPA, is called OBAworld.net. You know, the world and versus the universe. So you can try that. And I really want existing schools that you guys great content. That you can drive those for-profit online charter schools out of business. You don't have them sponsoring you, right, dude? Oh, good. Okay.
So I've been paying a lot of attention to this work of teacher effectiveness because it's a kind of a lot of work, this work of teacher effectiveness. And so along with some of my colleagues, we've just been doing a lot of collaborating and thinking about working smarter and not harder. I want to root that, though, in this idea of making sure that people trust you when you have their very important career in your hands and on a rubric. Because if there's not that relationship and the knowledge of, I care about you and I know you care about kids and I know that you're doing what you believe to be the best job, because nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I really hope I do sort of all right. And I can't wait for kids in my school to maybe only learn a little. Nobody's there. But I think sometimes people get into practices that they're not even given the time to reflect on. So anyway, the Finding New Ground resource up there, that's a book that's by Bob Chadwick, and he's done a lot of work with BBSD schools around consensus building. And so the combination of that and then just some kind of paying attention to how I might use my iPad in some kind of smart ways has really sort of transformed the work that I'm doing as an observer and an evaluator. So we just finished a session, and a lot of the session, I think that people were thinking that we were going to shout out a lot of apps and give some examples of how that worked, but really it was more about talking with one another and learning with one another about how we can make things work a little bit better. So I just have to recognize Robin Hamasaki, who is here. She and another principal and I just spent some time with our iPads this year, and we just streamlined our work in ways that slowly it's just making some sense. And so, gosh, it's big, and we're pretty proud of it.
I guess I'll share a little bit about leading the way with technology. I'm in my 2nd year now as a principal, and so one of my lessons that I'm learning is about the action planning process. And so I've involved our district folks. We have a personalized learning coach, Scott Flores here. He's always available whenever I need him. And so I'll call him in and I'll say, I have this idea. And he always points back to what's your action plan. So even right now this summer, we're purchasing some interactive whiteboards. And I've got to go back and go through carefully and actually use the nostril model. We look at vision, we look at resources, all of that, buy-in, staff buy-in. There's a lot of complexities like doing surgery. You can think about a lot of things when you're doing this change management. So we'll session talking about forward work, season change, and that's really true. So it's complicated. And then you throw something on top of that. I have a veteran staff that we have computers in the classroom. We have projectors. We've been 2 years now working on projectors, so that when we start talking about interactive whiteboards, there's a level of anxiety. We're already successful. We're trying to analyze things for us to think about and change. We don't need to change. So there's a lot of, as far as meeting with technology, there's a lot of thinking that I have to do about how to care for the veteran staff. And part of what I'm hoping to do with consensus building is show And we don't have to use rocks to break teeth anymore. Now we have no cane, we use a drill. It might be easier on all of us. It's tougher on our patient, I'm sure it's working to fix their teeth. So that's kind of my mission.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been hearing about all day today so far is that people are already at capacity themselves in their learning, and we've only started our conference. But just that we've started, opened up your eyes, opened up your brains, opened up some thought process that you had thought about before, or some generating some ideas. And so when I'm thinking about what are the benefits of creating capacity in leadership, we know that our students may be experts in certain pieces, and we have to use them to help us learn some of the new technology and or the new ideas. How do you, as an administrator, this is a plethora of lots of different ideas and technologies, stay on top of things, or creating capacity in leadership so that we're not having to know it all? Because, you know, there is only so much time in the day. Anyone want to take that on? Maybe one or two of you.
So you can't know everything. You shouldn't know everything, or it's impossible to know everything. Any leader who is trying to know everything is a bad leader. I think it's something that is almost too obvious to even say, but I mean, you have to build that capacity. You have to allow other people to become leaders, or you are lost from the very beginning. I think what's maybe more interesting to talk about is why that doesn't happen. And I've become really interested in that. I mean, certainly there's a real challenge, I think, with leaders sometimes being overly controlling. But I think what is another important dynamic to think about is how we get people who are not already thinking of themselves as leaders to think of themselves as leaders and to build their own confidence and their own lens for thinking of things as a leader. I truly, you know, in DPS, I'm not the person who makes the decision, but in my world, I would love it if every teacher and every student were a leader and had the power to do that and to be that. That said, there is a challenge in having every student and every teacher and everyone else change the focus of what they are doing from their own focus about what would help me in my classroom and what would help the district or the world in a broader sense, because that's where true leadership really comes from, when you stop thinking about what will help you, but what will help others. And I think that every teacher has that capacity. I think we haven't given them the ability to think beyond their own classrooms as much as we should, and that to me is where leadership should be really looking, is how we give teachers and others the ability to lead beyond their classroom.
I want to ask you a question, Kurt. Being in front of a group of 46 educators who I feel the waterline is up to here with the amount of change, SB 191, I'm hearing a retreat in some senses of I've got to do what I know what I can do well and close my door and survive the storm. They feel like they're in the storm. And so, as a leader, how do we help protect them so that we can get leaders out of that hiding mode? How are you doing that in DPS to encourage teachers to step out and be more, because I feel like they're a little overwhelming?
So the question is when teachers are overwhelmed, how do we encourage them to lead, because that can be seen as something even more? Somebody else want to answer?
I'll take a crack at that.
Hold on. I'm actually making a point here a little bit, actually. I mean, right? I mean, somebody in this room has that answer, right? Somebody in this room already has thought a little bit about how you can take on leadership without it seeming like something extra. And I'm going to pass the mic.
Dan.
I think it starts with ownership and empowering, and also remembering how you eat an elephant, which is to jump up and down until you get all pooped out. I'm not thinking about that backwards. That's how you get eaten by the elephant. That's what you do. Sorry about that. It's one bite at a time. And I think that you have to have it be meaningful. It has to, and it has to have that ownership. And one of the things that I've had a lot of companies come to Littleton and ask us, you should standardize on brand X. It would be so much easier if you would just do that. I've even had some folks that come and say, look at all these different platforms you have. And I want to celebrate that. Because even brand X, which I think we all know which company that is, said, well, we have 50% of the learning management systems out there at colleges. And I say, well, 50% of our kids are going to experience something else. And so learning is a dynamic, personalized experience. And if they own it, they will do it. If we try to make them do it, it will not happen. And so I think little bites, ownership, and diversity is okay.
So I'll bet you there are answers throughout the entire room, but I will now turn the mic over. But part of my point is that really turning over leadership really is turning.
Well, I can answer this because I have nothing to do with sports. I don't do anything. I can give you advice and run away and just like Michael Fuller and I say, hey, no, take it. I just want to follow actually Dan's suggestions. I've managed various organizations, different places, not teachers or those things. I've also observed a lot of schools that have done successfully in the case. I think the first thing that's, remember, I think you guys said something is that do not think you really have the idea. I think if you create a whole culture of trusting people, this is very Taoist view. That's the best governors is governing without governing. That's the idea. So leading without leading is very important. I've seen so many great school leaders. Very Larry Rosenstock runs High Tech High, Jim Scott runs Plymouth School. It's a 170-year-old private school. And these guys, they're very casual. They're not to capacity. They go for coffee, they're traveling all the time. Like they're not even there. So but they have hired some really good people below. So like when you get there, you probably can, you hire a few people. So I do research on this domain that also you may feel like they cannot do it. Like in my office, I'm from 200 days away from my office. My office is running fine, they're doing global platforms, they're doing all this. When I hire them, you wouldn't think they can do it. If you just disappear, but they can't find you, they will figure out a way to do it. So that's from the high. Okay. The second action, the more serious conversation is that I think a culture of trying to take risks and trying to bring ideas to everybody is important. In some cultures going there, people are culture of urgency. They say, well, I'm business goal, I'm doing this thing. The other cultures, they play with ideas. You're allowed to play with ideas to say, and honestly, today, I don't think you can mess up our education, which is bad anyway. If it's called you're at the bottom, you can't make it worse. Anything the teacher can do in your school, I don't think it'll make it worse, unless most of the time. So you have them play with ideas. Actually, my boss, who actually left, one thing I said, he said, as long as you don't land me in jail, do whatever you like. I think that kind of culture is really, really important, but I don't know how to do that. Other than trying to say, leave those people who do not want to change alone. Do not invite resistance. As a new leader, it's very easy to create resistance. So I just basically don't bother them, and I don't have other box. My phone just broke. But what you want to plant a few people, 20% people can change. That's like that. A little by little, it will happen.
I want to speak a little bit to teacher leadership. I think that teachers all have different passions, whether that's technology or literacy, and there's many opportunities we can give our teachers to show leadership in our buildings. And I think that helps them stay in the classroom and not try to seek another position, but stay with the students and stay with the skill set that they are amazing at. Also, they also have amazing credibility being in the classroom. So as soon as someone leaves the classroom, you lose a little bit of credibility. You're not in the classroom every day. So giving teachers those leadership opportunities in the passion areas that they want to spend that extra time in, I think is worth it and helps other leaders in the building as well.
So I will say, even for us in Boulder, we have lots of different stakeholder groups where we are working with teachers and creating those capacities and those leadership opportunities. We host Saturday events and learning tours And I have a team of 2 people and 55 schools and 40,000 students, so I can't do that. And all of our teachers are the ones who are leading those sessions. And the more opportunities that they get to do that and then show their capacity with others and let them see, okay, well, another 5th grade teacher did this at a different school, so now I can think about doing it at my own school, really helps them think outside the box about different ways that they could look at education differently or look at opportunities for students in learning differently, not just tech, but students in learning. And that's a really great opportunity for our teachers to stand up and do that as well. So do you want to, Tracy, go on to our next one? So my question for you is kind of, where did you start and where are you now? A lot of times we're at different parts in this process. And a lot of times people are just concerned about, where do I even start? And how did I even get this into our culture and our conversations? And then where are you now?
Okay. So you're talking about technology in our building.
Technology, leadership, education reform, gamut of ideas.
Gotcha. So where I started was initially, and I said this a bunch, but initially was my passion for celebrations of my students and the celebrations within the community. So that is sort of my starting point. That's my passion. That's what sort of gets me up each and every day. And so that's sort of my launching point. So then the question is, from a leadership perspective, how do I leverage technology to then further that goal? And then from more of an educational perspective, as far as boots on the ground in the classroom, where I started was knowing that I wanted my students to have a wider audience than just me. So that's, I think, where I'll address that. So often, the voices in the room, prior to having this technology, the voices in the room, they just echoed. And we just kept hearing our same old voices. And although it was neat and engaging and fun, there was somewhat of a limit to that. And so we started in the classroom, and so then the goal was, how do I then broaden that audience for my students? And so using the technology, where are we now? Well, we're out. We're global. The students have interactions around the world. They have interactions now with students at our other campuses. So it doesn't have to be global, I guess. It can be just at another campus. So where we started was hearing the sounds of our own voice, and it was great, and it was engaging, but ultimately I think there was a limit to that. Where are we now? Now that the students have more of a voice, they think that way now. They think now it's not just Mr. Amadon's reading what I'm writing, or Mrs. Gallagher reading what I'm writing, but it's a global audience now. So now how does that impact my writing? How does that impact what I'm writing about, my quality? Maybe I think more deeply, or I try to think more deeply now that I have this global audience that's essentially reflecting back.
Okay, I'll take it. So it's hard to say where I started, because I started in Novobooks 20 years ago, and I honestly barely remember it. But moving to educational technology, what I'd say is that, even 5 years ago, we were very much in a model of a lot of face-to-face PD events. That was the main way that we sort of moved the needle as far as getting teachers to incorporate technology into their classrooms. And that's really changed a fair amount, not as much as I would like, but it certainly has changed some. We have Ben Wilcoff in our district now. Many of you know him for sessions or whatever. He's doing substantial work on how we personalize professional learning, especially through the use of online communities of practice. Through Janus, we have blended learning schools that are supported by a team of people that are also dedicated now to personalized learning, and that group of people, along with Ben, and along with my team, been having a lot of conversations about how we start looking at doing professional learning very differently through online communities, through online courses, through one-on-one, face-to-face stuff, and really, as much as anything else, through empowering teachers and really looking into what actually teachers want and what they actually respond to. I'll tell you, it hasn't gotten a whole lot of traction yet, but one thing that I was most excited about was about a year ago, Jessica Raleigh, who's in the room here, came and did a PD for us where she brought her students from her classroom, and we let the students run the PD for the teachers. And it was really powerful in numerous ways. And I think it's something that we all think about and we've all talked about. We did it at least once, and it worked really, really well, trying to figure out how to do more.
In Littleton, we started, I guess we just go back 6 or 7 years ago, we started wanting to have a focus in a certain content area, like we mentioned, writing, and we use instructional models like TPAC and Standard Edition. And I think now that has really bridged over to where our technology department and instructional department really are working together as a team over the same department. We naturally make sure that whatever we do in IT is connected to content, and in curriculum, make sure that technology is always a part of the discussion of how that leverages that content. So we become much more seamless instead of having 2 silos, really working together to make sure that you have that same conversation.
By the way, I just want to add something. We, again, I never do this kind of research on this, so there is some model that suggests, we did a lot of research on how innovation projects works, spread in schools. We found very basically 3 F's: focus, fatal, and friends. So the focus, there must be an instructional focus and have a purpose to talk about. Secondly, that you allow people, teachers to play. A lot of time for them to play with the technology ideas. Another that play with a network of people. So friends, we call the 3 F's. If you try any innovative project, really start with that. Focus, fatal, and friends, the 3 F's. F-I-E-L-E, like fatal. Oh. No. Fatal is plain, you know. Okay, yeah. How do you pronounce that? Fatal, what's the difference? So how do you get it?
Fatal versus fatal, very different. Like that? Yeah, that's what I thought. Very important to know the word that we're using.
Fiddle. Focus, fiddle, friends. Thank you very much. So, coming from Boulder Valley, sometimes people think of BVSD as being super educated and lots of money, and I am at a school that has changed demographically over the last 6 years. I entered Birch as the principal, and our demographics were 23% free and reduced lunch. We have an ESL program and an on-camp program. Intensive center for athletes and needs. We're now over 40% free and reduced lunch. And so over 6 years, that's a pretty big shift. And we're just not always associated with BVSD because our demographics really are very different than smack dab in the middle of Boulder. That said, we've just been really smart at focusing and fiddling and becoming friends. You're welcome. So I think that over the last 6 years, a piece of our focus has really been, how is it, and really my focus, I want to be able to empower my teachers to be the people who are creating systemic change. And they're owning that. But that wasn't the case at the beginning, and so a piece of the fiddling really was them seeing that I really do trust what they're doing. And when we talk about building leadership, what I say over and over again is that it's taking responsibility for what matters to you. That's what leadership is. And so I'm empowering my staff to take responsibility, and anytime they're taking responsibility, I'm rewarding it,
And I'm not pushing anybody to take the responsibility that they don't want. And so as a result, there we are, this just little neighborhood school in the middle of Brookfield with a pretty awesome little tech program and wireless that works and a squeaky wheel in a number of teachers who goes after the ed tech folks as much as we can to say, gosh, we just need things to work better. So I think that fiddling, a piece of then the friends, that's not just within the building, but it's also district-wide and statewide too. So a piece of the fiddling then is showing up here and building more friendships with all of you. So I would say that that's a bit of the growth too.
So one last thing for us then is after you've listened to some discussions from our panel, I would like to know from you, all of you, at your table right now, what does it mean then to be a 21st century leader? Now I know we're way in the 21st century, we're long far into the 21st century, but we're still keep on having these conversations. But what does it mean? What are the qualities and realities of this type of leadership? I'd like you to talk amongst yourselves right now about what that is, and then stick it into the back channel.
What to the school district?
Cook it. I'm trying to figure out where it is.
Because I'm only actually for our guests, literally outside actually if you have you can say frustrating regardless how it goes, if you're in high level middle school, there's a big I don't know if you can go to the other room. We have a room upstairs that's a big one seat. There's another setup in there. Has the mobile tables, has other puzzle tables that are stand-ups or lower shapes like a puzzle piece. And then some of the chairs in there have like that little chair that you see in that booth, like there's some big chairs that do that too. Here, I have a free which is great. This is like the next step. And then the hockey is upstairs, that are smaller, smaller, kind of smaller scale. But it's actually everything's upstairs here. Unless you're paying. This is a big television screen.
And these are all your things too, right?
Yes. It's mobile and has a like different things. It's really all about mobility and how you can classroom. Whatever you do in that day. And the stuff upstairs is we could have it in a classroom. The tables and chairs are almost like the tables are so lightweight you can pick it up. And then they sit
Very nice.
Every kid all year? 21st century learning is this, you use that. What does it mean? Well, it's use in our words. Whatever it is. So.
Okay, so what did you guys come up with? I'd love to hear from everyone. What are our qualities of a 21st century leader? What did you guys come up with? What are our qualities of a 21st century leader? There was great table discussion. I know you guys came up with some qualities.
We talked about how important it is for us to model that risk taking in front of the people we are leading, in front of teachers and students as well.
So modeling risk taking. Anyone else?
Of course, vision, but also a self-awareness of what they're good at and not, so that they can recognize strength in team members and employ distributed leadership. That also leads to trust, which is important in any century you live in.
One of the ideas that we talked about was how even the name 21st century leader may need to shift so it could be 21st century facilitator. I know that there's a lot of people in organizations, whether it's a school or business, who may be afraid to share their innovation because of the name that's attached to the building or the printhead or anything like that. So it's that facilitation of what the vision is, and really that transparency of saying, I may write the checks or whatnot, but you guys are moving the ship.
Funny how just one word can make a big difference.
So this is actually something that Kevin Krogan mentioned as we were talking here, talking about the leadership has to have a certain mindset towards failure, as in failure is the step towards growth, and having that growth mindset and understanding that, especially with these sorts of innovative moves, there are going to be failures, and that's okay. We learn from that.
You can't get it right the first time. We have to work and progress and learn from each other. Anybody else? Okay, I would like to thank our leadership for their expertise, and if everyone could give them a round of applause, please. I think it's awesome to be able to learn from you guys in this different type of setting and also to communicate. I agree 100% with what Tracy has been saying and with everyone else that I've heard today. Develop some new friendships. Hopefully you have developed some new friendships today. I have met a lot of you via Twitter many times, but now it's really amazing to be able to see you face to face. So develop those friendships. I would like to transition to our next process, which is our gold sponsor. So Janice is going to come up and talk to us a little bit about you guys. Janice is going to, let's give another round of applause. Janice is sponsoring our cocktails and our drinks, and hopefully I am trying to get the drink tickets. I'm not entirely sure where they are yet, but I've been texting, and my technology doesn't seem to be working. I even did old school and did phone calls, and that's still not working. But if I'd like to bring them up and let them talk a little bit about their opportunity to build relationships and leadership and capacity, and all that can't be done without all of our sponsors.
Hi everyone, my name is Casey Cortese and I'm the president of the Janus Foundation. And it's really an honor and a privilege for us to be here for the second year in a row, helping to host the leadership sessions and of course cocktails, which is always the most favorite thing of everybody at any conference. But hopefully you all know what Janus is. We are a global investment management company. And so every day our people go to work to try and find the best companies to invest in to help our shareholders and our investors reach their goals. And with that in mind, we know a good investment when we see one. And we think that aside from our investment products, the best place that we've seen that play out is through our investment in education. This is actually a very special year for our foundation. It is our 20th anniversary in the fall, and we have been investing in education from the very beginning. Because we know when you look at what makes people successful, whether it's in their businesses, with their families, or in their communities, it all is rooted in having access to quality education. That is not just the intellectual skills and the academic skills they're learning, but it's about their collaboration skills, their creative thinking skills, their critical thinking skills that really allow all of their academics to come to life and to really serve in a bigger way outside of just themselves. Along with that, we have to say that we're very proud of our relationship with Denver Public Schools. This is actually our 6th year of doing some very deep grant work with them, first related to teacher effectiveness, and now we're just finishing up our 2nd year working with blended learning. And the vision that we have and the investment that we make would not be actuated and really fulfilled if it wasn't for the leaders that we have working with us. So at this point, I'd love anybody who's working at one of our Janus Blended Learning lab sites or helping to facilitate our whole grant work at Blended Learning. Could you stand up for a minute and just get a round of applause, because this is really about you, not about us. There's incredible talent here in front of you, so please network with them. Do some idea sharing. They can learn from you as much as we can all learn together in this room. And again, thanks to everybody for being here and for being here as a part of the leadership panel. Everybody's going to get a drink ticket as soon as we track them down. So yes, I need to ask you to stay put for just a second. But thanks again, and really it is our privilege to be here with you.
Okay, so we have located the drink tickets, the most important part, right? So if same place where you went to for lunch,